Some people like to compare the US and the EU, and you'll see that the US is much larger than the EU, but the EU has more people. But while the EU is composed of 27 countries, the US is composed of 50 states. And while states aren't countries, some of them used to be. But which ones? By my count, there are 3 US states that used to be independent countries. But I'm using a pretty strict definition of independent country. So these countries on the list were independent for many years on their own with diplomatic recognition, some of which might surprise you. Going in order of independence, the independentest state is not Texas, but actually Hawaii. Hawaii as islands has always existed, of course, but the independent kingdom of Hawaii was formed in 1795 when all the islands were unified by King Kamehameha I, and that lasted until 1893, which is almost 100 years of independence, and they were truly independent, with their own flag and seal and motto. The end of the Hawaiian Kingdom, however, was not the end of an independent Hawaiian state, as the coup that overthrew the monarchy ended up establishing the Hawaiian Republic, which was its own sovereign state. They kept the flag and the motto, but changed the seal. The Hawaiian Republic lasted another 4 years from 1894 to 1898, which pushes Hawaii's total time as an independent country above 100 years, far more than any other state on this list. And we can see those years of independence reflected in the state today, as Hawaii kept the seal and the motto, the one from the Republic, when it became a state. And of course, it still has the flag, making it the only state with a British flag on it. Oh, hey, look, there it is in the corner of one map on OmniAtlas. Let's get back to the continent and check out the rest. So, which state was the second most independent? Well, once again, it's not Texas. It's actually Vermont. This is probably the most overlooked independent state on this list, as people often assume that Vermont was one of the 13 original colonies. And while it's a common belief, it's not exactly true. Vermont was settled by the time of the Revolution, but it existed in a sort of disputed region between New York and Quebec. Since they were both British subjects at the time, it didn't really matter. But when the 13 colonies declared their independence from Britain, New York claimed Vermont and was theoretically speaking for them too. However, the next year, in 1777, Vermont declared their independence and spent the early years of the war as a sort of Switzerland of the New England region, not fully committed to the British or the American causes, although many Vermonters did volunteer for the Revolutionary forces. Vermont was also quite unique for the time as it had a very progressive constitution, much more progressive than the Constitution of the US. It banned slavery and granted equal voting rights to all men, regardless of property. The Vermont Republic was independent for 14 years. It had its own flag, seal, and motto. This only ended in 1791 when Vermont was added to the Union, but Vermont wouldn't forget its time as a republic, as they would keep that seal and motto to this day, although they did change the flag. And speaking of the flag change, I'm not sure how I feel about it. On the one hand, the old flag is a little chaotic with the star alignment, but the new flag is just a seal on blue, which isn't that unique. Leave a comment, let me know which one you prefer. And lastly, we have the state that is perhaps most well known for being an independent country. That's right, I'm talking about Texas. It's true that Texas did used to be an independent country, it just wasn't as long as Hawaii or Vermont, although they definitely have their rival California beat. Originally, Texas was part of Mexico, in the state of Coahuila y Tejas, which no longer exists, because in 1835, the Texas Revolution split the state into Coahuila, which remained as part of Mexico, and a now independent Texas. Some might assume that this independent Texas was perhaps quickly annexed, and that's why it's third on the list. But the Texas Republic would last for just about a decade, and Texas got to state building with a flag, a seal, and a motto. A rather famous motto, as I suspect most Texans have not forgotten the Alamo. Some of you might be confused about the flag I'm using, as the flag on screen is the Barnett's flag, which was the original flag of the Revolution and remained the flag of the Republic for the first 3 years. So it was an official flag. The Texas Republic would end up changing it to the more popular and more well-known Lone Star flag for the remainder of their independence, so it would probably be fair to use either. But Texas independence couldn't last forever, and in 1846, Texas was annexed to become the 28th state in the Union. If you made it this far in the video, I hope that means that you liked it, and if you did, maybe leave a like or a comment. It really does help the channel. That's the end of the story for these three, but I have other videos on states that you can check out now.